Will Verdansk save Warzone?
Can Verdansk actually save Warzone?
It's 50-50.
Well, we all know they need to fix the anti-cheat and they need better servers. But in this video, I want to talk about 10 underrated gameplay mechanics that a lot of people aren't talking about that I think they need to bring back in Verdansk to make Warzone fun again. Now, this first one might seem like a small thing, but I think it made a big difference in the gameplay, and it's shooting people out of the sky. Now, love it or hate it, but this to me was one of those core features that I remember from Warzone 1. Anytime that you dropped into Verdansk and that you had to use your parachute for an extended period of time, you just knew someone was going to shoot you in the back. So obviously, it was fun to try to troll people and try to get kills this way, but one of the undercover things that I think made this mechanic so great was it could completely disrupt the initial start of the game for a team. I mean, how many times did you plan with the boys to drop at a certain POI, only for one of your squad members to just get fried in the air, and now you had to contest an enemy team with a man down? Like I said, love it or hate it, I think it brought a lot of variety to the game because it completely changed the early part of the match, and it could make things really interesting. Okay, number 2, and this is the big one, usable vehicles. Now, some of my fondest memories from Verdansk are racing.
It's like nowadays people don't even drive vehicles because they're just so unusable or just very dodgy, right? Just very dodgy. Like, you can use the vehicle, but they're just dodgy to use.
Around the map in an SUV looking for teams to fight, or spending so many different matches trying to hot drop and grab the helicopter as fast as I could to try to chop people out of the air. And why I think the vehicles were so great in Verdansk is they had a lot of maneuverability and they were very fast, so they were actually useful in gunfights. But the big thing is they were also vulnerable. There was a big risk reward to using vehicles in Warzone 1. On one hand, you could get around the map very quickly and you could hunt for kills, but on the other hand, you could get immediately destroyed by someone hiding with a C4. And I think this trade-off made Verdansk a lot of fun. I do think in a battle royale with a big map, you do need ways to get around the map quickly. And I think vehicles are the perfect solution for that because they are vulnerable and it is a little bit of a risk getting into them. Whereas right now we have redeploy balloons, which have pretty much taken the place for vehicles. And the problem with redeploy balloons is you can pretty much get from point A to point B instantly. So you can make a lot of bad decisions or bad rotations and still bail yourself out if you have a redeploy balloon. And this can be frustrating for players who play more tactically and go for positioning because redeploy balloons eliminate a lot of strategy in the game. I think having usable vehicles in Verdansk really balanced out the gameplay because you could get from point A to point B relatively quickly, but players who were holding power positions still had a chance to kill you. And this brings me to point number 3. Power positions. Now, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think power positions made Verdansk a lot of fun. Yes, it did create a lot of camping, but it also created a lot of narrative and storyline. I mean, who didn't hate that team that camped all game in the airport tower? Or the
okay, so put it this way. Is there more camping now in current Call of Duty in Urzikstan and Rebirth Island? Or even, I don't even know if Area 99 has campers, technically. I mean, holding a single building is one thing, but holding like the highest point in Area 99 is another. As like what's in center with Dome. But I mean, camping is definitely an issue because people they're afraid to move around because they don't know the map, right?
Team that camped in the buildings downtown or at stadium. I can remember so many games where some enemy killed me in one of those positions, and after the gulag, I made it my life's mission to go and take them out. This clip right here, I got sniped from a guy on stadium, and I literally just full sent him with the helicopter afterwards, and it felt really good. These power positions created so many fun moments and storylines because there was nothing better than eliminating that team that camped all game and finally had to leave safety once the zone pulled away from them. But on the flip side, it also gave people a way to play a much slower game. I can remember having many gaming sessions where I just wanted to chill with the boys and have a few drinks and just sit in one spot and have a good time. You could catch up on life and just chill out and play a much slower game. And that's what I think made Verdansk great. There were so many viable play styles and you could really play as slow or as fast as you wanted to. So my hope with Verdansk is that they don't put zip lines everywhere and they don't have redeploy balloons and they actually keep some of these old power positions that made the map a lot of fun. Okay, number 4. They have to bring back the original gulag showers. Now, I don't know what it is.
Before he says his opinion, I don't know if this is something someone or anyone would look forward to. I understand it's the OG gulag. I get it. But I don't know if this is like a key thing to bring into the game that people would come back and play with and play for, right?
specifically about this gulag, but to me they got it right the first time, and every single gulag since has just not been nearly as good. I'm not sure if it's just the nostalgia speaking or what, but it really did feel like these gulag showers were very fair. The map was symmetric and the lighting was good, and it just felt like it was a true 1v1 test for skill. Now that being said, there were some corny things like with the tactical grenades and some of the weapon choices I don't know that I care for that much. Like personally, I'd like to see the 1v1 gulag with just the pistol come back. I think that that was a great representation of skill level, and I think that the better player typically won that. But either way, I don't think that you can have Verdansk without the gulag showers, so hopefully they bring that back as well. And this actually leads me to my 5th gameplay mechanic. You should only be able to get back into the game from the gulag or from a buyback. Now Verdansk was my first battle royale game, and one of the things that I miss was the stakes of each game and how much my life mattered. There weren't a million opportunities for my team to get me back into the game, and when I made a tactical mistake or made any mistake in general, I was punished for it. This definitely made the game slower and more tactical, but I think that gave Verdansk an identity, and it made it feel completely different to Resurgence. Now one of the things that I know is tricky about this is no one wants to just sit around for 10 or 15 minutes at a time while their team tries to get them back. So one thing that I think would be really cool if they could do it would be to give all the spectators in the game the option to play in a free-for-all or a team deathmatch where you have your loadout guns and you can just practice your mechanics or work on leveling up your guns. And I think that that would go a long way to making the game more enjoyable when you die, but then still keep the high stakes part of battle royale. Okay, and the 6th gameplay mechanic that they should bring back is I think they should make overkill a perk again and put it in the same category as ghosts, and then make ghosts work how it used to work, which was it was active at all times. And I think that this was a super underrated reason why Verdansk played so well, because it forced players to really try to consider how they wanted to play the game. If they wanted to play more tactically, they could pick ghosts and then be invisible on the radar, but they only got their primary weapon and then a pistol as their secondary.
I don't think a lot of people now are using Ghost as much. The only people using Ghost are maybe those who are afraid to move around the map. But that's about it. Overkill, definitely they put that as a perk. I think they're in the same slot in current Warzone, I think. But that's definitely a big thing.
And on the flip side, if you wanted to play more aggressively, especially early in the game, you wanted to pick up Overkill so that you had both your SMG and your AR. So there was once again a nice trade-off between playstyles, and it made both playstyles have a lot of pros and cons. I know some people will say that making Ghosts go back to how it was would give campers way too much of an edge, but once again, I think this is another thing that just makes more playstyles viable in the game. And at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want a lot of different ways for people to win, to be viable, because more people are going to play the game. And then the 7th mechanic that they should bring back is they should make jump shots useful again, and then also bring back bunny hopping. Now, I know you might be saying, well, wait, in the last gameplay mechanic, you were encouraging camping, and now you want to have bunny hopping and jumping. But once again, I just want to have balance in the game. And I just think that Warzone 1 struck like lightning in a bottle, where it just had so much balance between the sweaty players and the casual players, where the casual players still stood a chance if they had ghosts and they were camping, but then the sweaty players, they could also still outplay that by bunny hopping around corners, by jump shotting through doorways. And it just all comes back to, I think there just needs to be balance in the game between different play styles and just allowing people to play how they want, and also having the game feel good, right?
I think he is right. But right now what people are doing, they're going way too hard for clips, which makes the game unplayable, aside from the fact they got cheaters. But it's definitely, you can pick up the skill of the game very quickly. It doesn't take that much effort. But I think those who are tired of trying to learn the game, especially with the Omni movement, find it difficult. But it's the nature of gaming, right? You gotta learn the game somehow, right? If you don't learn it, then you're never gonna play it. Then you're like, oh, it's not really worth it. Then next game comes out, same thing. You're like, oh, this is so easy. You could have done that with the previous game with the Omni movement. So
right now, it sometimes feels like your character is like stuck in the mud, and the gameplay just doesn't feel fluid and it doesn't feel good. And I think adding back in the ability to jump shot and bunny hop would fix a lot of that feeling. Okay, this next one is a tough one, and I'm not sure how exactly they can do it, but I think it's important. And what it is I think that Verdansk is going to need to have a much smaller gun pool, and all of the attachments need to be unlocked. If you think about it, when Verdansk first came out, all we had was the MW19 guns, and everyone loved the game. We don't need hundreds of guns for people to have fun.
Correct.
I believe Verdansk is going to bring back a lot of casual players who are going to want to experience the nostalgia again of playing Verdansk. And if you have all these players come back into the game and they don't have any of the guns unlocked or any of the attachments unlocked, they're just going to get slammed and pretty much immediately stop playing the game, which is what we don't want. So I'm not...
Even when Cold War came out, right, the amount of Cold War guns with the Modern Warfare 2019 guns was still a lot, but it's not as much as we have now with like 3 to 4 different games, right? Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, then we have Cold War, but each of those guns, there's like what? Like at least 30 ARs, in 30 to 40 ARs, that, and half of which you can't even use right now. I think he's definitely right that limit it, but don't overexpand on it.
Sure exactly how it should be done, but they need to figure out a way to vault some of these guns or have specific modes where the number of guns you can select is just way less, because right now with the number of guns and the number of attachments that are available, it's just so overwhelming for new players. And I think that that's just going to push a lot of people away from the game because it's just way too complicated to set up your classes. And also, if you don't have everything unlocked, it's just going to feel very unfair if you're trying to get back into the game. And mechanic number 9 is bring back one-shot RPGs. Now, it pains me to even say that because as a sweaty player, it was so annoying to get killed by guys camping in corners with RPGs and just getting one-shotted. But if you look back at so many of the classic clips that we all love from Verdansk, one-shot RPGs were a core part of that game. And I think that now that we have ranked modes and different modes that are more competitive, you can take some of these, I guess, more cheesy mechanics out of those modes and keep those modes more competitive, but then bring the fun back to the actual public matches and the matches that the casual players are going to play. I also think when you have some of these lower skill options for players to get kills, you can loosen up the skill-based matchmaking in the game and provide more variety to players, because now the lower skill players have options to still get kills, and if they want to, they can just sit in buildings all day long and still get kills.
But I don't know about the one-shot RPG. That's way too OP for anyone who's camping. That's the one thing I would not want to face.
Have a good time. I think that what we're all chasing is that feeling that we had of playing Verdansk during COVID, when it was locked down and no one had anything to do but play video games all day with your friends. And the reality is, when the game does come back, it's not going to feel the exact same. I do think long term they need to fix their anti-cheat, get better servers, and consider making Warzone a standalone game so they can build an identity for Warzone that doesn't change every year with every multiplayer release. But at least in the short term, I do think that Verdansk is going to provide a big boost to the franchise, because after watching back some of these gameplays, man, there's just nothing like winning on Verdansk. And a big part of that has to do with gameplay mechanic number 10, which I'll tell you here in a second, but I just want you to experience it here for a minute.
Ooh. Precision? No. What is it? Oh, one person on the right, on the rocks. He's got zone. Get height. Climb up the ladder. He sees him. The AMAX, bro.
Not police.
Oh, don't lose your... Oh, no. 1v1. I know it's an old game, but still, it's like the thrill is there. 10 zones? That's crazy. That only goes up to like 5 or 4 right now, right? 4 or 5? Maybe 7? Then after that, it's all gas? Oh my god. Teabag. Oh, I thought he was gonna teabag him.
Yeah, gameplay mechanic number 10 is to please bring back some of the old sounds. Whether it's the hit markers or the sound of winning, just if we have some option to bring back some of those iconic sounds, it would just make the experience that much better.
Yeah,
and if you want to see the #1 way to improve your aim in Warzone, you should check out this video right here.
I get it. I don't know if any of this is gonna be what makes Warzone Warzone again. It could be. There are other things as well. But if there's something that you think should be brought back write it down. And I don't think Verdansk will be what it was, like I said, but we'll see what happens. Not everyone will come back. You can only try it. We'll hope the game gets better. I think the game can get better, and we'll take it from there.